Hello and welcome to the AI with Arun show. In this episode, we are looking at China. We're going to look at how US sanctions didn't kill China's tech sector. They actually mutated it into something entirely different. Let's get into it. First, you have to understand the strategy. For a decade, Chinese tech was all about Alibaba, TikTok, and video games. That era, the Internet Plus era, is dead. The new national strategy is called Embodied Intelligence. They are pivoting the whole economy to combine AI with physical machines. Why? To survive a demographic crisis, a shrinking workforce, and to build a tech stack that doesn't rely on American hardware. The goal is simple. By 2030, they want to be the world's center for robotics. So how do they do this? They call it the AI Plus initiative. Think of it this way. The US treats AI like a product, like ChatGPT. China treats AI like infrastructure, like electricity. They are taking their massive industrial base, high-speed trains, EV factories, power grids, and opening up that data to train AI models. They call this the data multiplier effect. By 2025, over 36% of Chinese enterprises had already integrated generative AI into their workflows. They are using the one thing they have more of than anyone else, industrial scenarios, to train their models. Now this is where it gets really interesting culturally. While the West worries about AI taking jobs, China is worried about AI taking your soul. In late 2025, the government released draft rules for AI companions, those AI girlfriend/boyfriend apps. They are actually regulating, quote, emotional dependency. If you use an AI companion for more than 2 hours, you get a pop-up warning, just like anti-addiction systems in video games. They are terrified that in an aging society, people will choose AI over real humans. It's a fascinating glimpse into how they view AI not just as a tool, but as a social risk. Okay, let's talk about the hardware. This is the Manhattan Project of 2025. The US banned China from buying the machines needed to make advanced chips, EUV lithography. So, Huawei and SMIC had to brute force the laws of physics. Meet the Huawei Ascend 910C. It's made using an older technique called quadruple patterning. Imagine trying to draw a super fine line with a thick marker. You can do it if you trace over it 4 times very carefully. It's expensive, and it causes a lot of defects. In 2024, 80% of the chips they made were failures. But by 2025, they got the success rate up to 40%. It's messy, but it works. This chip is now performing at roughly the same level as NVIDIA's H100 for AI training. But it's not all perfect. There is a massive bottleneck: memory. A fast brain needs a fast memory. Huawei managed to stockpile about a year's worth of Samsung high-bandwidth memory before the latest sanctions hit late in 2025. Now they are racing to build their own replacements. And yes, there is a black market. There is a $1 billion trade in smuggled NVIDIA chips moving through Southeast Asia. But here's the catch. You can smuggle a few chips for a lab, but you can't smuggle 10,000 chips to build a data center. So for the big stuff, China is forced to use its own domestic hardware. So if chips are scarce, how do you compete? You get smarter. In January 2025, a Chinese hedge fund subsidiary called DeepSeek dropped a bombshell, the R1 model. This was the Sputnik Moment. They proved you don't need the most chips if you have a better architecture. They use something called mixture of experts. Think of it like a massive library. Instead of asking every librarian to answer your question, which takes a lot of energy, you only wake up the math librarian for a math problem. The R1 model has 671 billion parameters, but it only uses 37 billion for any single task. It runs cheaper, faster, and it beat OpenAI's models on math benchmarks. DeepSeek isn't alone. We are seeing a war of 100 models. Check out Moonshot AI. Their model, Kimi, is designed for deep thinking. It has a massive context window. It can read hundreds of thousands of words at once, making it perfect for lawyers and analysts. Then you have MiniMax. They built a model so small and efficient, only 10 billion active parameters, that it's dirt cheap to run, but still smart enough to write code. They aren't trying to build one godlike AI. They are building hundreds of specialized, efficient ones. Now, let's leave the digital world and enter the factory. This is China's home turf. Did you know that in 2024, China accounted for 51% of the entire world's demand for industrial robots? They are installing robots faster than anyone else, 470 robots for every 10,000 workers. And crucially, they are stopping imports. Domestic Chinese brands like Gastun are now capturing over half the market, kicking out the German and Japanese incumbents. This is how they sanction-proof their manufacturing. The coolest part of 2025, the year of the humanoid. Look at the Unitree G1. It looks like sci-fi, but it's real, and it costs $16,000. For context, some industrial robot arms cost $50,000. How are they doing this? They use Sim2 Real training. They put the robot in a video game simulation, and make it walk, fall, and get back up millions of times. Then they copy-paste that brain into the real robot. This is commoditizing robotics. It's no longer just for big auto plants. At this price, small workshops can buy them. But a robot needs a brain. This is where VLA comes in: vision, language, action. Old robots needed complex code to move an arm. The new Chinese models, like Intern VL, just look at a camera feed and understand natural language. You tell it, pick up the red apple, and the neural network moves the arm directly. They are even building world models that let the robot imagine the future. Before it takes a step, it simulates the physics to see if it will slip. It's giving robots common sense. Who is building all this? It's a talent war. Here is a crazy stat. 87% of the top Chinese AI researchers who go to study in the US stay in the US. They work for Google, OpenAI, and Meta. You might think that's a disaster for China. But the 13% who do return act as superconductors. They bring back the know-how and unwritten rules of Silicon Valley to hubs like Tsinghua University. It's a weird form of brain circulation that keeps China in the loop, even while they are isolated. What does this mean for the economy? First, cloud computing in China is actually cheaper than in the US for many tasks. Alibaba Cloud is optimizing these domestic chips to be incredibly cost-effective. And they aren't keeping this tech to themselves. China is exporting this stack, the robots, the AI, the infrastructure, to the global south. Factories in Vietnam, Mexico, and Thailand are beginning to run on Chinese automation. They are building a tech sphere of influence. So where does this leave us? We are looking at a bifurcated world. On one side, you have the US stack NVIDIA chips, closed models like GPT-4, focused on superintelligence. On the other side, the China stack Huawei chips, open models like DeepSeek, focused on industrial automation. The sanctions didn't kill Chinese tech. They acted like evolutionary pressure. They forced China to become lean, efficient, and self-sufficient. We are now watching two different technological civilizations growing side by side. Thanks for watching. Please support our work by joining us as a member. You will see the link in the video description below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the AI with Arun show.